Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Boobies and Newbies. You can follow us at Boobies Podcast on both Instagram and Twitter. And if you'd like to support the podcast and get a little extra bonus Boobies content every month, you can support us on Patreon at Boobies Podcast. Welcome to Boobies and Newbies, the podcast that asks novice romance readers to think outside the dick in a box and brave the unbridled world of erotica. I'm your host, Kelly Reynolds, and today I'm joined by fellow podcaster Stephanie Callas, one of the two American birds behind the British comedy podcast, Anglophilia. Welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Oh, Kelly, thank you so much for having me. I am so stoked.
I'm so excited to have you, especially because I know you're going to get your hair done after this, and that's a really important moment in all of our daily lives. So the fact that you could pencil me in before the hair appointment, I'm like,
oh, girl, I called the salon and had them push it back several hours.
Oh, shit.
Yes. And also, I want to add that is the only reason why I'm looking this sharp. Well, no.
For your hair appointment?
It's twofold. On one hand, I try to look super fresh when I know I'm getting my hair done because I'm never going to look that fresh again.
Oh, that's so funny.
In my daily life. But I also, we've only met briefly a few times, and I didn't want to roll in here looking like a complete schlub the first time I was in your lovely home and on your lovely
You did that. You look amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And then here I am in my fucking pajamas.
It's your house, though. It's your house.
I know, but it's the house, it's the studio, it's, whatever. But
yeah,
I was like, oh, it's gonna be chill. I'll just wear although these are my classy pajama pants that I just bought for a bachelorette party.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, they make me feel a little bit like Katharine Hepburn. So.
Oh, do they make you feel that way?
Yeah.
Fantastic. I want to add for everybody listening, Kelly's microphone has a giant pink foam head on it, which is completely appropriate.
Oh, yeah.
When we think about what we're about to.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what's
so
funny is I've had somebody on before, too, who has looked at, the different settings of the microphone, and they're like, does that say boobs? And I was like, no, they're, different symbols for, the different types of mics you can use.
Oh, it looks like boob, though,
and it does, because it's an infinity sign.
There's
and everything.
2 infinity signs and then a heart and a circle. It looks like boob.
I know.
It looks like boob.
So, I accidentally bought the perfect microphone. Who knew?
Yes, a microphone that looks like a dick and says boob.
Yeah.
That's a nightmare.
What we all need.
No, that's
what
a nightmare.
We all need
it's a nightmare.
That's a nightmare. Oh my gosh. Okay, so please, before we get started, tell us a little bit about Anglophilia.
Thank you for that. So Anglophilia is a podcast that I co-host with my friend and business partner, Kaylee McMahon, who lives in Manhattan, which is why she's not joining me here today. It's not just because she didn't want to be here. She's thousands of miles away.
We'll let it slide. We'll let it go.
Yeah, this time, Kaylee, dude. But yes, we are both tremendous fans of British comedy, and so we do 6 episodes at a time per season, much like the British television that we watch.
Oh, that's so funny. I had no idea. I love that.
Try not to do the overkill thing, plus binging television shows while working full-time jobs and having lives can be...
It's a challenge.
A little awesome. Yeah. So we get together and we essentially just record ourselves having the filthy, maybe philosophical, political, feminist bitch conversation about whatever show we're watching that we would have in private, but we thought, hey, let's record this and see if other people like it.
And put it out in the universe.
And it's working out so far. We're having a great freaking time. We're recording tomorrow, so.
Perfect. Well, it's made for people like me because I'm a feminist bitch and I love British stuff. So
yes.
I can't get enough. I love it.
Well, and I appreciate very much that you chose a British-themed book for me.
Oh, yeah. That was completely intentional. I was like, well, we have to read something set in England. It has to happen. And a lot of historical romance is usually set in England, so...
Do you think it's because of all the layers of clothing and repression?
Definitely a possibility.
Yes.
They're liberating themselves.
Right, because, perhaps a period piece that took place in ancient Rome would not be quite as It wouldn't be simmering.
I'm just trying to picture that.
Oh, because it would all just be naked bacchanals and the popes in the corner jacking off. Yeah.
I'm like thinking about all like, okay, where's the ancient Egypt romance? And where's like the caveman, like Neolithic romance?
Oh, I mean, that would be epic, dude.
They do have dinosaur romances.
Fuck off, they don't.
They do. I haven't read one yet, but we've talked about it a couple times because I've listened to another romance podcast, the Three Drunk Girls podcast, and they've talked about it before. They read one. And that was like my only inclination to read one was I was like, okay, I need to know, like, is it a joke? Like, I thought it was going to be like a parody of romance. Like,
yeah.
Or like, does somebody turn into a dinosaur, like a shifter kind of thing? But no, like when I listened to, they had a mini episode that they did about dinosaur romance. And it was like a woman who was with like a pterodactyl and like the pterodactyl used his beak to like press her in specific ways, and I was just like, are you kidding me?
Wait, so was she a dinosaur?
No, she was a human. It was like a human woman. Oh, and this was the best part, was it wasn't even set in like dinosaur days. It was set in like, we live in a weird, future or whatever, where there just happened to be like that dinosaurs exist there, like very Jurassic Park kind of thing, but like they're not all in parks.
Yeah,
they're
Jurassic
just, like,
Park went a very different way, though, Kelly, didn't it? Yeah. Hold on.
it was like if it was like a Jurassic Park. What's that called when people write stories?
Fan fiction.
It was like a Jurassic Park fan fiction.
Except instead of the T-Rex just fucking everyone up,
he just fucks them.
Wait, man. So have you? I've never heard of that. Mental note. Filing that one away. Have you seen the pterodactyl porn?
What?
Okay. So, it was, like, posted on MySpace back in the day.
Oh, rip.
Back when social
MySpace.
Media was, like, the best thing because it was just young people. No offense, anyone. But
let's be honest.
And the young people were between the ages of, like, 18 and 20, and it was just the shit, and your aunt couldn't like it. But yeah, this chick posted something on her MySpace. It was a girl in my dorm, and yeah, it's like a threesome or a foursome with a woman fucking pterodactyls.
But
it was,
how? Like, is it just like really bad Photoshop? Like what?
Oh, they're I don't know if they're animatronic or guys in suits. I think a couple of them are robots, just kind of like.
I can't.
And there's one woman. Yeah. I can't say it's romantic.
No, I mean,
and I don't think it involves beak. I think it's pterodactyl dick.
Okay. I think there was some dick in this one too, but it was like the beak was used. Like I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. But I listened to their episode. Everybody should check out the Three Drunk Girls podcast.
Yeah,
it's very funny. But
nice.
Yeah, no, it was not what I was expecting. Like I was thinking it was gonna like turn into a human or like something.
You were holding out hope that
it wasn't just like straight up dinosaur bestiality.
Right. I mean, is it bestiality if dinosaurs are extinct and this is completely hypothetical, or should I feel weird about it?
God, I don't know. I don't want to imagine the future or like the possibilities of this actually being a reality.
Yeah, if a pterodactyl beak fucks a woman in the woods and no one is there to see it,
did it happen? Is it okay?
By the way,
the answer of all of it is no.
I've never said beak fucks in my life, but I have now.
Should bring that back. It can be like somebody going down on a woman, but he has like a really big nose.
We should be so lucky.
Beak fucks.
Beak fuck.
Well, without further ado.
Well, let's Urban Dictionary that after this. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, if we can, like, coin that. Oh, that's, like, one of my bucket list items in life is to, like, be responsible for, like, an Urban Dictionary term and, like, be responsible for, like, a viral meme.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so beak fucks. We're making it happen.
All right. Anyway, I interrupted you as you were about to get the show started.
Oh, I mean, I just didn't imagine we were going to take these kind of segues. I mean, Well, before we start with the book, I mean, you have to tell everybody where they can find Anglophilia.
Anglophilia, it is on Stitcher as well as Apple Podcasts, and you can also just visit anglophiliapodcast.com. They're all up there as well. And
Wonderful.
Please look at that, in fact, because it's a website that I fucking made, and I didn't know that an idiot like me could possibly do that, but it happened.
But you did it!
Go look at it, please.
What an accomplishment.
Right.
That's awesome. No, that really is awesome. Awesome. So everybody should check out Anglophilia.
Yes, please.
And especially since you're recording tomorrow, there's going to be all sorts of stuff coming out soon then.
Oh, yeah, and if you've appreciated any kind of the sick shit that I'm saying, this is pretty much the kind of sick shit that I say on the show.
Wonderful. What I have to ask in terms of British, just because I love British TV as well, what are you watching these days? What's, on your radar that people can check out?
Oh, what am I watching these days? Well, goodness. I mean, this season, we're kind of getting back to slightly more modern stuff. And by modern, I mean, very 90s, early 2000s. We've covered Mr. Bean and Fawlty Towers and absolutely fabulous classics like that. Our second season was just the complete Monty Python canon, where we did all of Flying Circus and Holy Grail, Life of Brian, and Meaning of Life. And so now this season, we're looking at things like Peep Show, and we're talking about coupling tomorrow.
I love coupling!
Oh, I am just having the sexiest podcast weekend. It's all sex for me this weekend.
Oh, I love it.
I mean, podcast-wise. Yes.
Whatever,
Yeah. So yeah, and then we're also going to take a look at the original British version of The Office with Ricky Gervais.
Oh, which is great.
Yeah. So that is what we're up to. Oh, and some French and Saunders.
Ooh,
yes.
Okay, that's I have not The Office on DVD. What's the other one? Extras.
Yes.
I have Extras on DVD.
That's definitely going to be on the to-do list at some point.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
That was one of those box sets I bought at, Blockbuster when they were going out of business for $3 or something. I was like, ooh, money well spent.
Yes.
There's an episode with Daniel Radcliffe.
He was great in it.
He was.
He was so funny.
That's one of the first things. I know people think of Harry Potter, but that's one of the first things I think of when I think of Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh, I'll always love him for that because it proved that he didn't take himself seriously and he had a sense of humor.
Good.
Yeah.
He's done so much since Harry Potter that's so diverse.
Yeah.
I'm
Horns?
Good for you. Yeah.
And,
that was weird.
The movie where he is living on an island with the corpse of Paul Dano, or vice versa.
He's the corpse.
He's the corpse,
yeah.
Yes.
And when he farts, they move forward like they're on a raft.
That was when I stopped watching the movie.
Yeah,
but
it's a weird one, but
yes.
I really did enjoy it.
Okay, perhaps I'll try
Swiss
it
Army
again.
Man.
Swiss Army
That's
Man.
what it is.
Yes, that's what it was.
There you go. Well, keeping on the topic of Brits, we have to talk about this book that we read, which takes place in England.
Yes.
So there's that. And this book we're going to be talking about is called Last Night with the Earl by Kelly Bowen. And this book was published September 2018, is available on Amazon for $5.99 Kindle edition. Oh, and bonus, it also includes a novella at the end, plus a bunch of sneak peeks for future books. So just know going in, Stephanie was surprised when she got to 60% of the way in the book and was like, wait a second, it's over. What's, and then there's a whole other book. So
yeah,
you get a bonus story, but just know that going in. Otherwise you might be disappointed. Mm-hmm. Also, this is book 2 in the Devils of Dover series.
Is it book 2?
It's book 2,
oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't read book 1.
Me either.
Book 3 is coming out this May. So everybody can rush out and get books 1 and 2, read them, prepare for book 3. So I know book 3, I'm pretty sure the entire series revolves around these siblings. So book 1 is about Clara. I'm assuming. I didn't even look it up. I'm pretty sure it has to be. Book 1 is about Clara, and then book 2, the one we read, is about our heroine, Rose, and then who's Clara's sister, and then their brother, who's the doctor / Baron.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna be book 3. So I'm pretty sure it's about the sibling trio.
Now that actually cracked me up, and I understand we're jumping to the end here, but I could not help but notice that the final chapter, there's a good whole page dedicated to your brother left in the night, where did he go? And I'm going, oh, okay, here we are.
Here comes book 3!
Yes.
Yeah, and you know what? That's super typical in romance, is setting up this kind of mini world where you can create different stories. I always compare it to the Marvel universe. I'm every romance can have a Marvel universe. Like they will set, maybe not all of them. Like some of them like good movies are meant to be just one thing. Like you don't have to write a sequel. It's fine the way it is. But a lot of them, if they have like shared characters, there will be like multiple books.
Right.
So we'll talk about that later. But let me ask you first, before reading Last Night with the Earl, had you read a romance before?
I have read like a paperback novel that was just kind of maybe airport whatever, where there was maybe one kind of sexy scene.
Okay.
I don't know if that counts as a romance novel.
Or if it's more of just like a fiction with like a touch of romance in it.
I've read like beach ready fiction with a touch of romance. It's not my go-to genre. And as far as what we think of when we think of a romance novel with like a hunky dude on the cover and stuff, like this man right here.
Here you go.
Fuck yes. I do specifically remember a friend of mine in 4th grade, her mom had like a lot of that shit, and we would steal them off the bookshelf and read them in her room and just laugh our asses off. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how funny. Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like my mom read romance, or she still reads romance, but that was like my introduction to romance growing up too, is like she always had one in her hand and everything, and I didn't really think about it because, like, I wasn't a reader as a kid, so, like, I didn't give a shit what she was reading.
No.
But I remember definitely, like, picking one up a couple times and being like, oh, like, whoa, like, you know.
How did you feel about that?
I mean, it's like, I wasn't reading. Like, so it's like, I could read, I just didn't. Like, it was, but yeah, I never really thought about it as much.
I mean, once you picked it up and you were like, oh, mama.
Oh, mama, this is what you're reading.
Yes.
I probably, honestly, with my, like, little innocent eyes, like, set it right back down and walked away.
And just thought, oh, this is an adult book.
Yeah, exactly. That was very much my childhood.
I mean, I ask that because, it was a couple months ago, I had the book. I think it was Oscar Sunday, actually. And I picked it up, and I thought, whatever, it's a nice afternoon. Maybe I'll take myself to lunch and have a beer and read some Last Night with the Earl.
Yes.
And I
just like the way you said that.
I mean, it's exactly...
Why not?
It's exactly what I ended up doing. Had a motherfucking quesadilla and a beer.
Yeah.
But I pulled the book out and I realized, oh, people are gonna know.
They're gonna see. They're gonna see me with this cover in my hand.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I had this whole thing about it where I was kind of going, well, fuck them.
Good.
Fuck you guys.
Good.
But I did at first kind of open it all the way to capacity so that people
and
couldn't
block
see.
off the front.
And then I thought, like, well, dude, I could be reading anything. There are straightforward novels that are considered works of literature that have way more sex than this book did.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And you wouldn't think twice about it.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, why the fuck are people assuming it's like I'm clearly here eating a quesadilla, I'm not whacking off?
Yeah. I mean, this is a question. This is one of the reasons I started the show, is I was like, I don't understand and I don't agree with the fact that people feel ashamed to be reading this book. Like, or not this specific book, but just this genre. Like, why? You know, and somebody brought up a good point on a previous episode where they mentioned that as a woman, there's always a little bit of a comfortability because you always feel like people are looking at you in general. Like, which, I mean, we do. We face, a lot of problems that way that, like, men usually do not.
Sorry, bros.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, so, I mean, they're like, I would feel a little uncomfortable being by myself reading regardless of what I was reading. Like, just because I'm a woman alone, So I do understand that.
Yeah.
But the book, I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, we worry about too many things in life. It's just not worth it.
We totally do.
It's just not worth it. And honestly, if people want to judge me based off what I'm reading, like, go ahead. Just do it. You'll probably think I'm a much more interesting person than I actually am. Like,
I like that.
I know. I feel like, honestly, like, I feel like most of the judgment is more of like, like, I bet she knows things. And I'm like, yeah, you wish you knew things. Read this book, you might.
I love also this idea of, because I've told a handful of people that I, read this book in preparation for the show. And there's always that question of, how was the writing? As if it's automatically assumed the writing's going to be terrible.
It's not a real novel, it's a romance novel.
As if fucking things like spy novels, whatever. Let's be real. There are dumb commercial books out there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And they could be any genre, written by male or female or whoever.
Yeah.
And so that was the question of like, oh yeah, how is the writing? And it's like, dude, I'm sure that there are romance novels out there that are written horribly, but that's just the same as every goddamn book.
Exactly.
And so I made sure to say, this Kelly Bowen person, whether that is her real name, whether she is actually identifying as female, I don't know.
You're right.
Kelly Bowen's true identity, but Kelly Bowen, I think, did a damn good job.
I think she did too. And you know what? I thought about it, and I don't think I actually had read a Kelly Bowen before. And I'm trying to remember why I picked this specific book. I just knew that I wanted something set in England.
And you found a timely one, too.
Yeah. And that's definitely, I do try and pick books that are of at least the last year-ish.
Okay.
So, and I knew that there was another one coming out, but, hold on, there was something, I love this. I think the other reason, a lot of the times when I find a book I like, it's because of the author or because of the author's recommending it.
Sure.
And so the description that I read online for this book was, "Where have you been all my life, Kelly Bowen? If Julia Quinn, Sarah McLean, and Lisa Kleypas were to extract their writing DNA, mix it in a blender, and have a love child, Kelly Bowen would be it," from heroesandheartbreakers.com. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love all three of those writers, so I have to love this book.
Okay.
Yeah. All three of which everyone should check out, by the way.
Yeah.
Lisa Kleypas, I think we've reviewed Lisa Kleypas and Sarah McLean books on the show before.
I'll have to listen.
But Lisa Kleypas is like one of my all-time favorites.
All right.
Love her. So, but yeah, after reading this one though, I'm a fan. I'm going to have to check out some more Kelly Bowen. I liked it enough where I would probably go back and read the first book and then read book 3 when it comes out. That's always like how I kind of judge a series. It's like, did I like it enough to read the next one?
Yes.
Yeah. And for me, it's a yes. So.
Yeah. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, and I don't know quite the format that you're going for, so perhaps I shouldn't dive into this quite yet.
Well, let's find out. Go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say, so, I mean, first of all, they don't actually do anything for quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
They do not do anything until page 178.
Yeah, it comes much later.
Guys,
all of it comes much later.
178 pages.
Yeah.
I'm sitting around going, but when are they going to fuck?
Right. And this is actually something that's worth mentioning, that not every romance novel has sex in it.
Didn't know.
Not every relationship has sex in it. So, I mean, it makes sense,
that's true.
Yeah. So, but no, this one does and when you get to it, it's pretty good.
Dude. Well, that's what I was going to say, is that I was up reading this not out of obligation, but because I was like, when are Rose and the Earl gonna get it on? Because by the time they did, I cared.
Right. Oh, no, that's great. I mean, that's the mark of great writing.
That's
right there.
what I think, right? So, yeah, it was just to kind of piggyback off of what you said, how you're judging the book by, would I read another in the series? I kind of knew, this is kind of a good book because I care when they're finally on the beach.
Yeah. For sure. On the beach.
That beach.
Oh, the beach.
Yes.
Don't have sex on a beach.
Well, they didn't go
No,
all
I know, but still, I'm just like, that's like one of my worst nightmares, is because I'm just like sand, everywhere.
Sand, salt water, mosquitoes, dude.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, it's not for me. I'm like, I love the beach. I love going to the beach. Don't want to bone on the beach.
Don't want to bone on the beach. And, if you were to try to bone standing up on the beach, to try to avoid sand, you're then just against a rock, and we're talking a jagged rock that's been eroded by sea air for centuries. Yes. Not a thing that I want to do.
Let me give everyone a brief synopsis just so they have some indication of who these characters are and what's going on in the story. So, this is Last Night with the Earl by Kelly Bowen, and this is the Amazon synopsis for everyone. Earl. war hero, notorious rake. I like that they just lay it out. After the Battle of Waterloo, Eli Dawes was presumed dead and would have happily stayed that way. He's no longer the reckless young man he once was, and only half as pretty.
Yeah.
Stop it. All he wants is to hide away in his country home where no one can see his scars. But when he tries to sneak into his old bedroom in the middle of the night, he's shocked to find someone already there. Rose Hayward remembers Eli as the arrogant lord who helped her late fiancé betray her. Finding him stealing into her art studio doesn't correct her impression. Her only thought is to get him to leave immediately. Yet the tension between them is electric, and she can't help but be drawn to him. He might be back from the dead, but it's Rose who is suddenly feeling very, very much alive.
Yes. Now, let me say, that synopsis kind of confused the hell out of me because I assumed she was fucking a ghost.
Oh, ooh.
Yes.
Yikes.
It took me a second to realize, oh no, he's not a ghost, he's just Don Draper.
Yes. Well, and you know what? It's like, sometimes we'll read the synopsis and it'll give too much away, and then like that's the entire story, and then sometimes it'll just be like, well, that's chapter 1. What happens after that? This is definitely like, it doesn't give you a lot. Like, it kind of sets up who each of the characters are, but that's pretty much it. Like, you don't really know, you don't know, like, what their journey is going to be together.
I also think that sets up more of who he is.
Yeah,
because
for
that's his whole damage is, you know, my stunning looks were somewhat ruined at the Battle of Waterloo.
The Battle of Waterloo.
Meanwhile, though, she is this incredible artist.
Right.
And art instructor who is such like an incredible figure of female empowerment. I was really...
Oh my gosh, I know. Women in this book are on point.
Yes.
Like, we have a woman who's aspiring to be a doctor. You have Rose, who does these incredible, not only is she like painting portraits, but she's doing boudoir portraits. She's doing paintings of women who like they don't see themselves as beautiful. And like, because they have some sort of, I don't even want to say like abnormality, but just like something that like, you know, one of them, she has one of her legs, she was like born with like a malformed leg. And then the other woman, she's just had like 5 or 6 kids. So like she's got stretch marks and like doesn't feel confident in her body. And Rose paints these paintings of them that show them how beautiful they actually are. Yeah. Just like, what?
Yeah.
That's incredible. And then you have the woman that eventually Eli, or Dawes, she calls him Dawes, like works with, who she's like set up a factory for like, what is it? It's women and children. He wants to set one up for women and families who have like been affected by the war. She has it for women and children that have been affected by, I can't remember.
I thought it was just kind of by anything.
Like, just because they just don't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah, just kind of giving them education and work, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And they're making
dresses?
Yeah, it was like, or like tablecloths or something.
There was
linens.
There was a lot of
linens,
incredible like admin sort of chapters about fabric and like shipping things.
There were.
Yeah, that kind of cracked me up.
Yeah, no, I mean, the women though, I was just like, wow, giving them so much agency, and like definitely, and the men that are with them are like in full support of it. Like the men who are married to them.
Right.
And, I mean, granted, there honestly are a lot more female characters in this story than there are male characters.
Oh, hell yeah, there are.
Which is rare to me for,
even
like,
a
period,
romance, huh?
for a period piece.
Oh, okay.
Like, because usually you have, like, the woman, and usually the characters that surround her that are usually female are her family. Like, her sisters, her mother, and... This one was different in that way, in that there were so many different female characters in it, and they weren't all related, but it was kind of like their found family sort of thing. And yeah, it was something that I didn't expect from this specific time period. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, yeah. And there are a few moments where Rose has to really kind of tell Dawes to sit the fuck down.
Yeah.
Because he returns from pretending to be dead because he is no longer as pretty. But it's very much like a Phantom of the Opera, Gerard Butler situation, where it's like, well, maybe this bit of my face is effed, but the rest of me is still foxy as fuck.
I know, I was like, just give him like a fucking eye patch. And he's so like sad about it.
Oh man, a dude in an eye patch? I mean,
yeah, right?
Come on. But, I mean, he kind of shows up, and he is bewildered by this world of women with agency, because he was a player, for sure.
And he's been gone it's been like 6 years. It's been like 6 years, and a lot of things have changed.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he has this moment where, because his aunts still sort of hang out at the school where Rose instructs, and, there's a scene where, like, his aunt has just been painted by Rose, or is about to be painted by Rose, and she's...
nude.
She's in a robe.
Yeah.
Hello. She's in her robe. And he's like, my aunt shouldn't be in her robe.
Like, she's a woman of society.
She's a woman of
society.
She
shouldn't do these things.
Why are you painting her nude? She's old. She has children or whatever.
Yeah.
And Rose is just like, your aunt is just as beautiful now as she was years ago.
Right.
And I was just reading this chapter, and I'm going, this was clearly written by a woman in the 21st century,
yes.
but I loved the way that she made it sound like a woman of whatever period could be saying
it never sounded unbelievable. In fact, that same scene, I think I actually did mark...
I might have
something that I was like, oh my gosh, it was so good. Oh no, it was kind of around that same place that I marked a passage where Rose was kind of explaining the school that they have. Because like what goes on here is that Rose's parents are gone. They've died.
Yes.
Eli's parents are also gone. Or his father. I feel like they don't mention his mom, but dad's gone. Like, so it's Rose and her siblings, and they basically inherited like a broken... like a couple broken businesses like from their family. And so the brother focused on turning around the ships and the shipyard and everything, and she and her sister mostly Clara, focused on this school for young women.
Yes.
And the way Rose is like added to that picture is like they created like a summer school program basically where the young girls who they hand select to join them are women that want to be architects and doctors, and she says it beautifully. She's like, they know that this probably will never happen for them. Like, they know.
I have it right here.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You do. We probably marked the same page, so you go ahead and tell us about Miss Lovely Rose.
Yeah, she's just handing Dawes' ass to him, and they're talking about, my aunt shouldn't be posing nude, and that young girl shouldn't be studying medicine. And Rose says, these young women are fully aware that society most often measures them by their title and appearance, not their mind. That being different or remarkable is not something that is admired. They recognize that, while they are expected to be clever, their intelligence and wit can at no time overshadow those of their male companions.
I marked a page later where she says, it means that this summer at Haver Hall, we have aspiring architects, students studying various disciplines of law, an apothecary, a gunsmith, a goldsmith, a portraitist, and of course you've already met Rachel Swift, our sole medical student this year. Each student has a local mentor. My brother is one, but there are others willing to overlook the fact that these students wear skirts and are saddled with titles and fortunes that would otherwise keep them in pretty gilded cages.
So good.
God, I mean, the writing, first of all, is, like, fantastic.
The writing really kind of knocked me out. I was like, this is... Well, again, because of the stigma about, the genre we're talking about. I was really kind of surprised by it.
Well, you know what? I find that in a lot of romance I read, there's a lot more dialogue than you would probably read in, like, another genre, which I personally like just because I come from, like, a drama background and a script writing background, so I like dialogue. That's like that's the whole thing with that. But in this one, I felt like there was a lot more narrative, like that I wasn't expecting, but I really appreciated, like, just because it's so beautifully written and you get a lot of great background on the characters and the story without it being like exposition overload.
Yes.
So, yeah, no, I mean, the writing was well done, and, like, just this school sounds freaking awesome.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of thing is still very much not happening in a lot of places in the world and is in fact unheard of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it sounds really cool. And I mean, just kind of like what they've put together. It's great. I mean, you're right. It's 21st century feminism, like in the 1800s.
Yeah. It's the shit. But he falls in love with her for that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was one of the things that was mildly annoying to me throughout the book is it's a very repetitive story in terms of he comes back, and I will give Kelly Bowen, right?
Yeah.
Kelly Bowen. I will give Kelly Bowen credit that she didn't paint Eli to be like super broody and like awful and just gruff. Like I feel like that's a lot of the characters, the male characters, if they're like damaged, they'll be like, oh, leave me alone, like da 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 da. And like Eli clearly wants to be alone in his, summer house or whatever, but he realizes quickly, like, that's not going to happen.
Right.
Like, there's a school going on. And he just kind of, like, goes with it. He's like, okay, like, I'll just kind of, like, keep to myself. And then she, over and over again, Rose, is, like, trying to draw him out and be like, no, like, you're fine the way you are. Like, da-da-da, after we get over the whole little debacle about the past, which we could talk about how awful that was in a second. But yeah, it was just throughout the book was a lot of like them arguing about something, usually about how he is and how she wants him to be and how he should be. And like, what a prime example of, how women want to change men. And then it would be like, oh no, okay, I guess I'll try. And then, they'd make out or something. And then it'd be another page. Like, then they'd argue again. And no, I have to draw you out of your shell more. And then he finally gets to this place, like, halfway through the book where it's just, like, this big 180 shift of, like, okay, I'm cool with me. Like, I'm fine with what I got, I'm gonna start a business, I'm gonna do this, I wanna give back to people. He becomes the most generous person in the world.
Yeah.
And then we switch to her and how she's got these like overwhelming insecurities that come from this past drama and how he then is trying to bring her out all the time to be like, what are you talking about? You're amazing. You're the strongest woman I know. Oh no, I don't know. Like, I can't do it. Like, so it just was like a lot of the same thing over and over again, which at least for me got a little taxing. Like, I'm like, okay, I can already tell where this section's going. Like, this is going to end in an argument. They're going to seal it up with a kiss and then we're going to move on.
Right.
Right. So,
well, Pride and Prejudice is essentially a romantic book as well. I'm not calling it a romance novel, but there is a romantic story that is also fraught with all kinds of tension and personality differences and a fuck ton of pride and prejudice. Right? And so I kind of feel like that's a story that's told again and again and again, whether it's in, Pride and Prejudice, or You've Got Mail, or
for sure,
anything starring like Matthew McConaughey and
when he did Romance,
when that was his dig, so that's a story that gets told again and again, and it was actually you were mentioning the presence of dialogue in romance novels, as well as kind of repetitive things that happen. There's always a fight and then a gesture and a makeup and some sex. As I was reading this, I kind of thought, you know what? This actually could be a modern movie that they could make any second.
Yeah.
Like a period film, there's a feminist heroine and a brooding dude who then also kind of becomes a feminist heroine.
Yeah.
There's some sexy lovemaking, and then in the end someone conquers a panic disorder.
Right.
And there's a wedding.
Right.
Sounds like a movie I've seen.
It totally, well, you know what? It's a little bit Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, sure.
Like, especially when Disney did the new one and they're like, we're gonna make Emma Watson's feminist as fuck as Belle, So I'm like, okay, I got that. Like, that's definitely there. Mm-hmm. You're right. It's very cinematic.
Yeah. I did want to say though that I totally noticed that as well. You've got this guy who's like, no one can see my face. She takes the motherfucker to one restaurant and all is forgotten.
It was kind of, I was trying to figure out what the moment was that was like this big shift, because there's definitely, he's a very, I didn't find either of them unlikable.
Sure.
At all. Like, I really did like both of them a lot. I almost started to like him more than her because I found her to be a little pushy.
Okay.
Just because I felt like she was always like, she always wanted more of him. But then I'm like, at the same time, we want that in a partner. We want somebody to like push us too.
But then she started pushing him away.
Yes.
After she reeled him in.
Right.
And to be honest with you, I identify with that so
yeah.
far.
That's the thing too, is
Yeah.
I was like, as much as like she's annoying me with what she's doing, I'm like, this is real. This is what people do, is like they try to, you know, fix things and like fix people and like, oh, I'm going to make you, you know, perfect. Not in like a gross, like, I'm going to make you a perfect man kind of thing, but like, you're so much better than this. Let me help you realize it. And then when they get there, it's like, oh, great, I accomplished my task. Now what? Sort of thing. Because he's like, all, marry me. I love you. Let's be together forever. And
right.
It freaks her the fuck out.
Well, it's something that we all do, whether it's with the romantic partner
right.
or a job or whatever you want to call it, or whatever you want to call it, whatever is distracting you from fixing your own shit.
Yes.
So it's kind of like
a project.
And I mean, to Rose's credit, she did know Dawes before the war.
Yes.
When he was friends with her shitty fiancé.
Oh my
and
God.
She and Dawes, though, always had that intellectual connection.
Yeah.
They were both super into art, to be fair, and they had this incredible friendship that was always, at least in his case, he said that he was always secretly like really into her.
Yeah.
And so he comes back and he has his Heathcliff moment and he's all brooding and shit, and she's like, no, I know you're better than that. So to her credit, she wasn't trying to change him maybe as much. I saw she was just trying to kind of get that dude back that she
right.
knew and respected, who also respected her.
Right.
But yeah, once she kind of made that happen, and then it was like, oh, dude, now this guy thinks I'm incredible. He doesn't know that I'm a fucking mess.
Yeah.
Because I've done a great job of hiding
I
that.
gotta break away before he sees it.
And that, I felt so seen.
No, it's so real. I mean, it really is like super real. And let's talk about her shitbag ex-fiance.
What the fuck was up with that?
That, I don't know. Because, like, basically when we first meet Dawes... when Rose and Dawes first, like, re-meet, we basically get this idea that he was, like, awful. Like, he was, like, always carousing and, like, with all these women. Yeah, and just, like, and you went off to the war. And then you find out that she thinks him and her ex-fiance, or her dead fiance, I shouldn't call him ex, but her late fiance,
nice.
That they, like, when they went off to war, they published these, like, gross drawings of, like, women in society that this is what we think of them, and they like publish them in the papers or whatever. And it was a really weird storyline. Like, I was just kind of like, do we need this? But then at the same time, I get that it like justified how she was one of the women who like had this awful thing published about her in the paper, and that's like why she's so insecure to like be with Eli. Is she's like, well, if we're together, we're gonna be out in public. He's gonna need somebody to be, you know, not just his wife, but his. What are you when you're with an Earl?
Earless.
You need someone to be an Earless for you. Duchess? No, that's Duke.
That's a Duke.
Well, shit, I don't know.
By the way, how hot is the word Duchess?
It is hot.
Yeah.
Duchess.
Anyway.
Mrs. Earl. He needs somebody to be his Mrs. Earl.
Because he is much higher in societal ranking than she.
Yes. So,
and I guess that was also the case with her late fiance, right? They weren't necessarily in love. They were kind of more or less betrothed.
It seems like he kind of like picked her out of a lineup almost to be like, ooh, yeah, let's, like, I can marry this one, you know, fine. And she was like, oh my God, I'm so honored. Yeah. Like, somebody wants to be with me.
But then he drew a picture of her naked and emaciated with, like, the head of a rat or a rat tail.
Yeah, it was weird.
Like, clinging to him. Like, it was this, like, propaganda cartoon.
Yeah.
About how she was this bottom feeder who was sucking his life away.
Right.
And people started sending her dead rats in the mail.
I know, so gross.
Yeah.
I could have done without that. Like, I could have done... honestly, to me, it could have been just as bad if it was like they slept together and then he went off to war and then she was left behind and she was like, you know, what do they call him? Like a ruined woman. Like, I feel like that would have been enough. Like, But
that probably would have been enough. I was trying to think about why they kind of did what they did, because once Rose finally does say, actually, bro, I'm good, we gotta break up.
Yeah.
She says that verbatim.
Just like that.
He hears through the grapevine stories about Rose attending parties in society after the gross pictures of her were drawn, and how she would essentially have these panic attacks. And they don't call it panic attacks, but panic attacks and panic disorder, that's a very real thing. And I feel like that's also where Kelly Bowen's 21st century mind is showing.
Oh, for sure.
And, something that, as a former panic attack sufferer, what people, getting real for a second, what people never understood when I told them, I get panic attacks, it was like, but you're up on stage at karaoke saying, fucking look at me, and you have your shit together, and I'm like, oh yeah, doesn't it look that way? So that was Rose to me, is like, I've got this on lock, I've got this on lock, I've got this and this and this, I'm going to tell all of you what to do, I'm going to teach all of you how to be confident. Secretly, this is happening.
Right.
So, again, I feel like the idea of, how do we give Rose a panic disorder? How about some really freaky naked pictures of her were once published in the local newspaper?
Well, and that would for sure do it for just about anybody, I feel like.
Yeah. So it's like, I understood point B, and I kind of liked point B. Point A was a little funny to me.
Yeah. It was interesting. I was like, oh, I didn't really think that's where that was going. And you find out that it was, Dawes had nothing to do with it. He didn't know about it. Yeah, and she thought he did. And then it, again, turns into another argument. This is like the first half of the book where it's like, yeah, I thought you did this. And then the next argument is like, how could you think that I would do that? Like, I'm not that kind of person. And then...
But yes, you are.
Yeah, exactly. And
but maybe I want to fuck you on this. Well, get out of my room.
Yeah, so there is a lot of that. But, I mean, you're right, though, with the panic attacks. And then I really liked that... I mean, I really appreciated this whole storyline of, like, everyone's beautiful. And, like, there's no, one way to be beautiful and everything. Both for men and women. Because, I mean, we apply it to Eli too, so
there is less and less mention of his scarring as the book goes on. I feel like it's on every damn page for a while,
right?
And then once they get it on, it's completely forgotten.
Yeah, because then he's like, oh, I don't have to, like, he was like standing to the side specifically so you wouldn't see like the one side of his face that's like scarred, and he's missing one of his eyes, and you're just like, oh, like, but and then he just stops thinking about it, and we stop hearing about it in the book because people just like roll with it. I mean, it's kind of like, that's, everybody always says, like, if you're just super confident and like you like yourself and you walk into a room and like own it, like people will like you too. Like people will get it,
But that is so hard to do.
I know. No, dude, it's so hard to do.
It's great how the simplest things are the hardest.
Yeah.
It's like, just show up somewhere with confidence. What the fuck are you talking about?
What? We live in Los Angeles.
Confidence in myself? Hold on. What?
Where do I get this confidence? Can I get it on Postmates? Like, will somebody bring it to me?
Yes.
What? Yeah, I had a friend this year send me something that was like called how to... Oh, what was it? It was like an article called like how to be a badass bitch or something. And it was all about how this is the year that you should like say this to yourself. God, I'll have to find it because it was like a really good article. And it was all about like how you have to like know that you're gorgeous and everything, and just like think you're the sexiest person in the room like every time you go somewhere.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, sometimes I try to do that. I experiment with it while I'm at Trader Joe's.
Good.
I'm like, yeah, look at me.
Oh no, okay, I found it. It was this article called Your Homework for 2019 is to assume everyone thinks you're hot. I'm serious.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it was basically like, don't just assume like people are picking out the things that you like hate about yourself or like, are insecure about. Assume that people think you're absolutely sexy, and then you will own it.
Dude, I have met men who think everyone thinks they're sexy, and and they act as such, and they get what they want.
Yeah.
I don't know why more women don't do it.
Right.
They don't want us to do it because then we would take everything over. If we
we would run the world.
If we replaced all of the time we spend picking ourselves apart and replaced it with like, oh, well, that's done. What else can we fucking demolish right now? Be the end of it.
That's it.
Mark my words.
There you go. Well, maybe something to look forward to in 2019, apparently.
Let's make a pact.
Yeah.
Right now.
Everyone thinks we're hot. Mm-hmm. Time to get shit done.
Everyone thinks we're hot.
Everyone. Mm-hmm. I'm drinking from a mug that says Naked Lounge.
Well, clearly that's because you're a nymphomaniac, and the second we stop recording, I mean, we're gonna fuck.
Yeah, I mean, we're already not wearing pants.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna fuck.
You're gonna have to push that hair appointment back even further.
Oh, I'm gonna fuck my hairdresser.
Yeah. Bring him over.
Wow, that took a weird turn. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Okay. It happens sometimes on this podcast.
All right, that's cool.
So what else? What's something, what did you, I mean, we've talked a lot of really good stuff about the book. Was there anything that you like didn't like or like you wish had been done differently or...
Anything I didn't like or wish that I had, or wish that had been done different. Okay, well, you know, we covered this a little bit already, and I guess, you know, this is also what reminded me of a Hollywood movie, is that they finally have their big falling out, he learns the big secret about her, they reconcile super quickly when she gets herself gussied up and shows up to a social event.
Right.
And he's like, you did this for me? And she's like, yes, let's get married. And then the final chapter is, oh, what up now? We're married. Where did your brother go? Oh, I don't know. He keeps sneaking off in the night. And I kind of thought, well, this is where you're selling me the next book. And I hate that I know that, even though I've never read one of these in my life.
Right.
But it's like, okay, fuck. Now that the art's over, bring in the commerce. and so that I didn't like. It was, okay. That was the first thing that comes to mind. Although I will admit that when I started reading, and it begins with the description of Lady Ophelia, which, hilarious, Lady Ophelia Volante.
I know. I loved how that storyline wrapped up.
Oh, that was really sweet.
Oh, we can talk about that in a second, but keep going, because that one was great.
The one and only snarky note I made in this book is the very first page of the very first chapter.
Oh my god, how funny.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so it opens with... When Lady Ophelia Volante smiled, she had a face that could start a war. Mm-hmm. So I wrote, and when she didn't? So this woman is only beautiful when she smiles, which
comes back in the end, too.
Yes.
Like, it definitely does.
But that's also an idea that exists in modern day society that I don't like, when strange men tell me to smile.
Smile,
it's like,
baby. Show me that smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
I totally get what you're talking about. I think it all tied into like the, you know, she doesn't think she's beautiful, but then when she like smiles and she's, you know, excited and happy, like it just radiates, you know? And because we get that at the end with this super charming like side story that I loved this. I loved how they tied this in. When Dawes was in the war, he saved this young guy who I'm assuming was probably like, I don't know, 16, 17, something like that. And he had, you find out, he like had put him on a horse and was like, go horse!
Get the fuck out of Waterloo!
Yeah, the horse takes off with the kid who had like been shot.
Yeah.
And basically he's left at Waterloo with the shitbag ex-fiancé who like shoots him and is like, fuck you, I'm getting my own horse out of here.
Yeah.
And whatever, he dies, so I don't care.
Fuck him.
Yeah, but so Dawes is like, oh, I always wondered like what happened to this kid, like did he make it? And I was like, oh my God, please bring him in. Please bring him in. And you do. You meet him. You meet the kid. And he grew up to be, you know, this charming young man who happens to be the son of a duke? Stannis? Earl? Yeah. It's Stannis. I'm just trying to remember what his station was. I think he's a duke.
He's something like a duke.
He's something, yeah. And so the Stannis and the son who Dawes rescued come to his house and they're like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like, we want to invite you to dinner. We want to invite you to this ball, like whatever. And then when they go to the ball, there had been mention earlier in the book between
Ophelia Volonte.
Ophelia, the one who could inspire wars with
if
her
she smiles.
There had been talk between her and Rose when Rose was painting her that like nobody had ever asked her to dance at a ball because she has like one lame leg and she always uses a crutch. And, you know, Rose is like, well, you're just not, you know, you just haven't met the right guy. Like, it hasn't happened yet. And then Eli asks her to dance, and then he introduces her to the kid that he rescued, and they become like a couple. I'm just like, oh my gosh. I never saw that coming, too. I was like, this is too precious. So that was honestly, I was like, that was one of my favorite parts of the book, I was like, forget Rose and Eli. I love this other couple over here. Like, so cute.
It was so cute, but that was also Dawes applying the, you know, the lesson of confidence that Rose
he learns
taught him.
from Rose. Yeah.
Yeah, because she's sitting there, oh, I can't dance. I've got this, you know, bothersome leg. Mm-hmm. And she's nervous to dance. I have a crutch. And he's just like, fuck him. Let's do it, darling. And Rose gets to see that. Rose comes to the party. That's the first thing she sees. And
that's the moment she's like, oh my God. She was like about to leave the ball because she's like so worried. And then she sees it. She's like, oh my God, no.
I made the right decision.
This is the man. This is the man. I taught him well.
I thought it was really sweet too.
It was cute. I will say, I'm not a fan of when they have, you know, it's typical in romance and romantic comedies when there's like the misunderstanding or the fight or whatever, you know, I'm always leery of when they make up, you know, and it does happen quickly, but I'm not a fan of when he sends her something to like make up for it. Like, here's this priceless painting that I know you love. Like, there's this whole thing about paintings and how she has this deep appreciation for art. He does too. It's one of the things I love. But I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's just so passive to me of like, I'm going to make it up to you by sending you flowers or sending you art or something. The letters, on the other hand, I was like, okay.
That was a real thing.
She had said to him, like, you never wrote anybody while you were in the army? And he's like, no. And then you find out that when he sends this painting to her that she's in love with, he also sends her the letters that he never sent her. And I'm like, okay, we get Notebook up in here. Like,
that, I have to say, must on a certain level be everyone's ultimate fantasy, is like what you thought was an unrequited love.
Yeah.
And then you get confirmation that for years, like, someone you secretly loved also secretly loved you, and there it is in writing. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, so, but I mean, at the same time, he didn't really have much that he needed to, like, it's not like he was apologizing. It was more of just, like, him proving to her, like, I have felt this way about you for a long time.
That's true. He didn't do anything wrong in this case.
No, and she didn't really either. I mean, she just, like, you know, she was running from the feelings and saying, no, I don't love you. But he knew. He's like, no, she's lying. I know she loves me and everything. So at least it didn't turn into, like, one of those blowouts where it's like, if you had just said one conversation, like, it would have worked out fine. Right. You know? It was at least, like, he knew what was going on with her. Mm-hmm. In some capacity.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. I mean, I'm just I'm just having flashes to all of those fantastic late 90s teen romances that for some reason have disappeared. Let's bring them back. But I'm thinking about, you know, Julia Stiles and Heath Ledger making out at the end of 10 Things I Hate About You in lieu of having a real conversation.
Right.
Doesn't he buy her a guitar or something?
Yeah. And she's like, you can't always buy me a guitar every time you mess up, you know.
But then there's always a drum, bass, and maybe one day a tambourine.
Yes! Make out. Cue music.
Fucking cue the cover of Cheap Trick.
Yes.
Like,
I want you to want me. God, I love that movie.
Right?
It's one of those ones where every time it comes on TV, first of all, I come into it when they're at the party scene every single time. Like, anytime it's on TV. And I just love it so much. I did, speaking of the 90s, I did write down, I was like, okay, wait a second. There's Art. Her name is Rose, and his name is Dawes. I was like,
hello, Titanic.
Are we just rewriting Titanic?
Oh, smart.
Yeah, that was like, it was like on page like 5 that I made that note. I was like, what? And she like paints people naked on couches. I was like, come on. And by the way, this is, mind you, like the 4th book in like the last month or two that we've read for the podcast where there is some allusion to Titanic.
Dude, I gotta wonder if, like, in order to have the chutzpah to write a romance novel, I imagine that loving Titanic must be some kind of prerequisite. Now, first of all, I feel like everyone who's seen Titanic at least secretly loves it.
Right.
But, yeah, I think if you grow up to write romance novels, you watch Titanic a lot.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I have to ask, did you, coming from somebody who does a podcast about British pop culture, British TV.
Sure.
And I know you guys focus more on comedy, but was there anything in this that you're like, that like stood out to you in terms of like British culture or like...
I mean, I wish I had a different answer, but absolutely not.
Okay. No, I mean, that's kind of one of the things I liked about it was I was like, this really could have been like anywhere. Like, I mean, there's this whole thing about post-war, how there's, you know, that guy on the horse, the like general or whatever, that's like going town to town and like collecting taxes. I mean, it was very like Robin Hood. Like,
yeah,
I was like,
that. Yeah.
What's going on? And there's not a lot of follow through on that. Like, I was kind of like, what happened to that guy? And he like burns down someone's house to like make an example of them.
Yeah, because for a while they're protecting that kid who stole something.
Yeah. And then that's kind of like what leads Eli to be like, I'm going to create a place where like people who have been affected by the war, like, and that's the reason the kid was stealing something.
Right.
It's like they had lost their father, and where they can go and like exist and not be hounded by the government and, you know, whatever. And so I was like, okay, that's now too. Like, this could be taking place after any war in any place.
Yeah.
And like a lot of this would make perfect sense.
Oh, dude, yeah, agreed. But yeah, I mean, there was nothing that stood out to me as being chiefly British. I mean, they're getting it on the beach.
Yeah, definitely not what I think of
British.
with British.
Nah.
I have to say, this line cracked me up. It's near the end. It's when he goes to the ball that they're throwing for him, and then she eventually shows up. The first line in chapter 22 is, Eli used to love balls. And I was just like, if this was in any other book, you might not think about it, but the fact that that is the first line
in chapter
22 of a romance novel is, Eli used to love balls.
Oh my god, there it is right there. I did not underline it.
And it's like separated from the rest of the paragraph. It's like its own paragraph. Eli used to love balls.
Fuck off! Oh my god.
And I just was like, I mean, I don't have anything to say about that. I just thought it was really funny.
Oh my goodness. No, it is really funny.
God.
Wow.
So funny. Kelly Bowen, you were having too much fun in chapter 22.
You know, I really liked when she shows up at the ball, despite the fact that she's terrified to do it, and he says to her, you know, you're so brave and inspiring, and she says, I don't feel brave and inspiring, she said, laying her head against his chest and hearing the echo of his own words from so long ago. Walking through that crowd, mostly I felt terrified, but you survived, and now you're here. Right where you're supposed to be. I'm like, oh, shut the fuck
up. I remember how I said, like, there were a lot of repetitive things, and I was like, okay, come on, like, let's move on.
Yeah.
There were also a few, like, repetitive, like, callbacks to stuff that I really did appreciate, too. Like, there was that line between them a few times where it was like, is that an invitation or a command? And it was like always an invitation, and she asked him that. Yeah, and then he asked her, and he asked her to dinner. She took him to go see a guest. He took her to go see a guest.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was basically like this whole parallel journey, and then at the very end, you have the invitation or command thing again.
Yeah.
When she's like, marry me. Like, she tells him, marry me. And he's like, is that an invitation or a command? And she says something like, oh, I'm done with invitations. Like, this is happening. Like,
yeah.
So I liked that. I thought that was smart.
I like that too, because a lot of, again, it's 178 pages of their verbal sparring.
Right.
And if you think about invitations and commands, that's very much happening when you're getting it on with somebody, right?
Yeah.
It's a power thing.
Well, okay, we're talking about getting it on. I think
yeah.
we have to
Let's do it.
We have to talk about some of our favorite sexcerpts from the book. So Do you have a specific scene or like passage you want to read or talk about to share with everyone? We have to dive into our sultry voice.
Oh, we're going to talk like this a little bit. That'd be nice. Okay, fantastic. So it's so funny as a former lit major, like I'll dog ear books and I'll underline them to this day.
Yeah.
And there are some people who think that is to have defiled the book, and I'm kind of like, no, it means I actually had a response to this.
Yeah.
But
it's for you.
But I also didn't want to just show up here with Post-its on the pages. So
I mean, you do you, girl.
I just dog-eared a bunch, and at the top I wrote beach so that I knew where to find it. So yeah, this is, I mean, okay. So it starts getting sexy, I guess, technically on page 176.
Okay.
I circled it.
Okay.
But still, how long is...
It's at least half the book. Like,
yes.
you're for sure at least halfway through. And this isn't even a sex scene. This is like a little bit of foreplay.
But that's what I liked about it. Because if you think about it, 176 pages in real life, what, maybe 3 months?
Yeah, and I don't even think it is in this book. I think it's supposed to be like a couple weeks. Like
totally.
A few weeks.
But 176 pages. maybe it's 2 months?
Okay, 2 months.
But imagine the time equivalent of 176 pages that you and this dude are circling around and nothing's really happened. There's one stolen kiss followed immediately by an argument.
Right.
And then finally you're like alone on this beach.
This is pent up.
And you're kind of thinking... I don't want to fuck on no beach, but I also know that I'm not leaving this beach.
Right. And something's going to happen.
I've been waiting 176
yes.
pages. And so they're just kind of like doing this making out thing, and he's getting her a little undressed, and she's getting him a little undressed. And so... what I appreciated about this passage that I will share is that it seemed very true to life in that once there's children outside.
It's not the first time it's happened while recording, although I have to say, I think it's the first time it's happened while we're talking about sex scenes specifically, and I'm looking at a little girl dressed like Cinderella with a crown and everything.
Oh, I can't see her.
Oh, God. They're going to send us to jail.
No, how the hell do they think they got here? Anyway.
No.
What I was saying is that I liked how it's just all this anticipation and foreplay, and then things get real when he starts touching her down below, and she climaxes really quickly just with his fingers. So they're kind of making out, and he had just turned his wrist and slid a finger through her folds, it says.
Yeah, not my favorite. Not my favorite word.
Folds.
Folds. And mound.
Yeah, because if you think about it, folds and mounds abound on a female body. So
her center, sometimes that's one. Her center.
Oh my God, Eli, she gasped. Oh my God, her hips tipping instantly. That you get, right?
There you go.
Her hips tipping instantly, giving him more access. God, she was wet and responsive and utterly, completely perfect. He found the apex of her sex, and her head dropped to rest on his chest. He slid a finger deep into her tight, slick heat. Oh, she breathed, her fingers digging into his skin. He stroked her, listening to the tiny sounds she was making. That's good. He's listening for, yes. He bent his head and caught her lips again, kissing her deeply, pushing her ever closer to the edge. His finger slid deep once again. And just like that, her entire body tensed and strained as her climax tore through her. He held on, waiting until she was limp against him, before withdrawing his hand and letting her skirts drop. He wrapped his arms around her and held her tightly, wanting to remember the perfection of this moment.
And just like that.
So there's a lot going on that I like, and then there's a lot that is stupid, like the apex of her sex.
Yeah. These are all... You know what's so funny, too? You read, like, a couple sentences, and it almost sounded like slam poetry or something. Like, they all kind of rhymed or, like, had this, rhythm to them. I was like, oh, okay.
He found the apex of her sex and her head dropped to rest on his chest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, we hitting this beat. Here we go. Mm-hmm. So funny.
So yeah, I mean, I like it. I like that it's, like sort of a more frenzied, like, yeah, I'm gonna get you off on this beach, girl, and I'm gonna listen and...
Oh, he was a very attentive lover.
He was a very attentive
For
lover.
sure.
So yeah, I like, it's funny. It's like I said, there's a lot going on. There's a lot that I like about it, and a lot that, you know, okay, yes, maybe that happened very quickly.
Right.
And you also said apex of her sex when you meant vagina.
That's just not as sexy as apex. Not my favorite word choice.
Yeah.
However, there are some scenes. There's a few more scenes too that I think the word choice is a lot better. Rose does mention early on that she's like, I've been seduced before.
Yeah.
Like, so you know that she's not a virgin, although they don't really go into details on that. Like, I was assuming it was probably Anthony, the like ex-fiancé that she had been with, but you don't get anything on it. You just like kind of know like, oh, this isn't like her first time.
Right.
Fine. I did like that every time they had sex, he would like withdraw at the end and like she'd like jerk him off. Like there was one point where he's trying to do it and she's like, don't you dare. Like, and then she just starts doing it for him. I was like, ooh, girl, like she getting the hand up on this.
Well,
like,
to be honest, I agreed with her on that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you don't want to just lie there
and take it
while someone whacks off on you. Unless you've expressly asked for that.
Right.
Still something I've never done. But.
There were also, there's one scene where the first time they were together, he blindfolds her. And I was like, well, at first I didn't like it. I was like, what? Like, why is he blindfolding her? Because, like, he doesn't want her to look at him, like, you know, because of his eye and his face. But then the next time they're together, she blindfolds him. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, okay, I love this. It's not blindfolding because he doesn't want her to look at him. Right. It's like she does it to him and he's like, oh, that was like really great actually. Like it heightened all my senses and everything. So I was like, okay, this got a little kinky. I'm really liking it. Mm-hmm. So, let's see. Let me pick out my favorite one. Okay, here's the one where she, like, jerks him off. Yeah, that's good. Then there's, like, a scene where she, like, kind of starts going down on him. And I was like, Rose, where you learning this bag of tricks, girl? Mm-hmm. But, yeah, let's see. Oh, this is so hard. Gosh, there's...
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Okay, here we go. This is when she, like, starts to, like, tease him a little bit.
Okay.
Rose made a sound low in her throat and lifted her head, granting him his reprieve until she slid lower, until her tongue traced the ridge of muscle that descended from his hips to his groin.
I love that part.
Until her hair slid over his throbbing erection, until her fingers cupped his balls, until she took him deep in the velvet softness of her mouth. Eli writhed, the blind pleasure of it almost unbearable. Rose, he managed in a strangled gasp, every muscle in his body straining for control. It was too much and not enough, all at once. And maybe she heard the desperation in his voice, or maybe she too could no longer wait, for she withdrew and positioned her hips over his once again, her body trembling as she held herself above him. And then she, takes his cock and puts it at the head of her entrance.
Okay, so why does he have a cock and balls and an erection, and she has the apex of her sex?
And her folds and her mound.
Isn't that weird?
It's true. You know what? We've talked about this before, too. I think this was actually in a recent Patreon episode we did where we talked about how there's not really a lot of sexy words for vagina. Like... You'll get, usually when you have a book and they say cock in it, the like equivalent for women is pussy. But I'm like...
Well, I'm thinking of a different C word on that one.
That's also this is Britain. Like, where is it,
They said cock, and I'm going to say the other one.
Yeah. I happen to love I happen to love the word cunt.
I love the word cunt. Oh, we're going to say it?
Good. Yeah.
Can we say it again? You do it first.
Cunt.
Cunt.
God.
There's children outside.
I love it. When I was a freshman in college, I did vagina monologues, and I was assigned the monologue about reclaiming cunt.
You did not.
And I was like, oh my God, I don't think I've ever said this word in my life, and now I'm going to be doing a monologue about it. And it was so good. And so ever since, I've loved it.
I like it in that context. It's pretty effing hot.
It's a weird... I never know how to use it though. Like, it's like we're not supposed to call people cunt, you know? Like, it's, and I feel like I do, but in like a joking way.
Right, but if you're actually referring to what it is supposed to refer to, I don't see it as a dirty word.
But I don't know how often I do that though. I'm like, maybe I need to add it more to my vocabulary.
Right, because how often are we talking about that?
Right.
I'm not going to be saying to my OBGYN anything wrong
Check out this cunt.
Anything wrong with my cunt? Doc?
Yeah.
But
we should.
Yeah.
We totally should.
Well, I was talking to a friend a couple weeks ago about just like CBD and how it's such like snake oil kind of, how you can't even buy a goddamn like fruit punch and people are trying to put CBD in it and make it $14.
Everything.
Yeah. So we were just talking about the phenomenon of CBD products and how I was telling him that there's these vaginal suppositories. I think there's THC in them.
Okay.
But yeah, you're meant to like put them up your vag. And I don't think it makes you high, but it's supposed to give you like a body high and it's supposed to make sex like super incredible. But I'm kind of like, why would I do that unless like I'm going to ask my doctor if it's safe to do it? I'm just never going to ask my doctor that because that's a touch too rich for me. Right. And I did say the phrase, why the fuck would I put that up my cunt?
There you go.
Yes.
There you go. No, I mean, it's true, but yeah, they definitely get a lot more figurative and creative in the language in these books when it comes to women's anatomy as opposed to men's anatomy.
Why couldn't the apex of her sex just say clit?
I know.
Because that's what it was.
I know. Well, and especially in a book where, like, everybody's clearly so informed and, like,
and
the women have so much agency. Yeah. I'm like, say it.
And they said cock.
Yeah. Right?
They said it.
So, yeah, I don't know. Whatever. Just, rewrite it, Kelly Bowen. That's what we're saying. We're saying there's not enough cunt in this book.
I mean, obviously, I have no idea how I would possibly write a sex scene.
Right.
Whether I was kidding or meant to fucking get people off, I have no idea how I would do it. But it was just something I noticed because erection is not a sexy word. And maybe people think vagina is clinical as well. But why is vagina always going to be more clinical than erection?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I could do without hearing erection.
I like boner.
That would have fit in right well.
His boner.
Yeah. She angled for his balls and his boner.
His boner.
Alliteration.
Yes.
Okay, well, if we don't have anything left to say about the book, I'm going to ask you to give the book a few grades and just kind of wrap up our discussion.
Okay,
and so I'm going to ask you to give a grade out of 10, 10 being the very best that it could possibly be, for the story, the syntax, and the sexcapades. So a different grade for each one.
Okay, so I'm wary to rate any of those 10 just because my basis for comparison is very wide. Okay,
it's okay.
So it's not a diss to Kelly Bowen, is what I'm just trying to... So the story, kind of typical.
Yeah, like there's definitely things in it that I found unique in terms of like, there's a lot of feminist discussion. There's the discussion about kind of mental health and panic attacks and the fact that he's, not disfigured, but, has some sort of physical impairment.
Okay,
I was like, that's great.
So then to you, does story not just mean plot? Because I was saying the plot is typical.
No, I think the story, but also kind of like the world in which it's set.
Including the characters and shit?
Yeah.
Okay, well then that changes things. So story, bearing all of that in mind, I would give the story a hard 8.
Ooh, it's a hard 8.
I'm going to give them all hard.
I think that's great. Yeah, I give it a 7. So I was like, I'm definitely in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
Like, it was really enjoyable. I'd recommend it to somebody. Like I told you earlier, I would love to read the rest of the series and just kind of see what that's about, especially because we get like this mini look at Clara, Rose's sister, and her husband like near the end, and how like insatiable they are. I was like, ooh.
Well, Rose randomly finds her sister naked in the ocean.
No.
And then her husband's like, why are you all wet, my dirty, slutty wife? And they go upstairs.
He's like, yeah, let's do it.
That's the shit right there.
I was like, well, if that's what I have to look forward to in book 1, I'll totally read it. So, okay, great. And then how about syntax? So, Miss Kelly Bowen's writing.
I will give Miss Kelly Bowen a hard 7.
Nice. I gave her an 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I liked it. I really enjoyed it.
Yes.
And then the sexcapades.
Okay. I wanted more.
That's fine. That's so you can definitely like the quality of the sexcapades. I would give like a solid like 9 or 10. But then like I felt like I was waiting a little long for it to happen. So, I mean, I would grade it down like a little bit from there.
Yeah, and I was hoping that after they reconciled, that maybe they would sneak off at the party and like, fucking some interview.
Yeah, I could have done with like one last sex scene. Yeah. I wanted her to get pregnant.
I wanted her to get so pregnant.
Gosh.
So yes, the sexcapades, it's not because I wasn't somewhat intrigued by what I read, it was that I would have wanted more. I'll say a hard 7.
Cool. Okay. And I give it an 8.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I did really like the scenes that there were, especially when they pulled those blindfolds out.
Yeah, dude.
Nice. So, okay, having read this, do you think you would read another romance?
You know what? I feel like I would definitely read another romance, if not just for the sole purpose of cracking it open at the bar and fucking reading it so that everybody can see while I eat a quesadilla.
Own it.
Yeah.
I love it. Do you think you would read another book in this series?
Maybe I would read about Clara and her sexy hubby.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, to be honest, perhaps I'm not ready to branch out.
Okay.
For instance, if you try one Cabernet and you think that was good, maybe stick to that brand and try their Zinfandel.
What if it's not broke? You know, fix it.
But, maybe you wouldn't want to go insane and try a Gewürztraminer on a different shelf. So,
I like this analogy.
I need a drink. So I think, maybe I would read book 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I think I would definitely also read another book by Kelly Bowen. Like, I'd be interested to see if, like, she only does historical romance or if, like, she has a modern contemporary romance, too. Like, I'm intrigued, but I do like the style of her writing.
Yeah,
so
I do too.
I'm on board.
She's very competent, very good.
Yes. Okay, cool. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me.
Dude, thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful.
Yay! I'm so glad.
Nightmare of like, what if we have nothing to say to each other and the whole thing was really awkward?
Oh.
Not what happened.
No. Well, we talked about this before the podcast started. We're both naturally loud and chatty, so I think it worked out fine.
It worked out great. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Thank you.